To over 1 million Indians, Oceania is home, and the relationship India has with this region is a very unique one, from its expression of culture to its economic impact. But before we can get to how Indians have found a home in the far southeast, we need to talk about how they got there in the first place, and that's perhaps the most fascinating thing about them. Let's go. Chapter 1. How Indians got to Oceania. Indians have been in Oceania longer than anyone might believe. They didn't start appearing in the region after European colonists landed there. Rather, evidence from genetic studies suggests that they've been in Oceania about 4 millennia before the first Europeans landed in Australia. Anthropologists believe Indians made the trip east through Indonesia to Oceania. However, these weren't the culturally distinct Indians we know today. The earliest migration of Indians to Oceania in modern times came during the 1700s, after Australia and other islands in the region had become part of the British Empire. Most of the ships making voyages there were coming from India. Given that some of the crew members were local Indians, that's how they found themselves in Oceania. In the 1800s, the biggest wave of Indians yet to come to Oceania started arriving, not as nomadic wanderers or ship crew, but as indentured labourers. They worked in Australia, New Zealand, and other smaller islands under British control, such as Fiji and Samoa. By the start of the 20th century, Australia and New Zealand imposed anti-immigration laws known as the White Australian Policy. This stopped people of colour, such as Indians, from migrating to Australia. However, this policy became obsolete in the 1970s, after 7 decades of its imposition, and Indians could continue to immigrate east to Oceania. Today, anyone in Oceania wouldn't be wrong to assume that the region is a second home for Indians. But which country has the most Indian population in Oceania, and how are they distributed? Chapter 2. The Indian demographic. In Australia, for example, people of Indian origin are around 976,000 as per the 2021 census. This means Indo-Australians make up around 4% of the entire Australian population. New South Wales and Victoria are hubs for the Indian community, with around 60% of Australia's Indian population living in these two territories alone. Fiji is where the most number of Indians can be found after Australia. The roughly 315,000 people there make up about a third of the island's population. This is the only country where Indians make up such a large portion of a country in Oceania. But in New Zealand, the multi-island nation is home to just 250,000 Indians, with just under half of them born in India. Nevertheless, despite only making up 4.7% of the population, they're the country with the third highest population of Indians in the region. In Papua New Guinea, there are just about 3,000 Indians there. There are also other Indians in countries in the Polynesia and Micronesia sub-regions as well. Furthermore, Indians are not only populating these parts, they're also doing so with their religions and cultures. Chapter 3. Religion, Culture and Occupations. Despite Indians having been in Oceania for generations, their cultural identity and beliefs have stood the test of time. 46% of the Australian population doesn't practice a faith or belong to a religion, but only 7.4% of the Indian population living there follow suit. 3/4 of Indians in Australia are either Hindus, Sikhs or Catholics, while Muslims and other religions make up 14%. The evidence of this high religiosity by Indians is palpable. For example, in Australia and New Zealand, Hindu temples are a sight to behold. The first Hindu temple, the Sri Mandir Temple in Auburn, New South Wales, was opened in 1977. Since then, various other worship sites have been opened as the Indian and Hindu populations grew in this part of the world. However, it has been met with both open arms and hostility. Back in October 2022, a Hindu temple in West Auckland, New Zealand, was attacked. Perpetrators committed arson, but the fire was put out before anyone was harmed. Furthermore, the first half of 2023 was a tough year for Hindus in Australia. In January alone, 3 temples were vandalised with Hindu phobia art. 2 months later, a temple in Brisbane suffered the same fate. However, it's reassuring to know that Australia has zero tolerance for discrimination of any kind, and the government does all it can to protect all Indians living in the country, irrespective of their religion. Because of this, Indo-Australians have been able to live in peace and are not afraid to share their cultural beliefs. For example, one part of the Indian culture that people can't seem to get enough of is Diwali, the festival of light. Although it was originally a Hindu celebration to remember the triumph of the Hindu deity Lord Rama over the evil spirit Ravana, Diwali has come to mean different things to different people. The Sikhs celebrate Diwali to commemorate Guru Hargobind Singh's release from prison in the early 17th century, while Buddhists use this day to celebrate Empress Asoka's conversion to Buddhism. This holiday has more to do with being Indian than the religion being practiced, so wherever there's a big community of Indians, there's bound to be serious cooking, decorations, dressing up, gift buying, and of course lights. Lots of lights. Decades ago, Diwali wasn't as widely received as it is now, but the fact that the Indian population in this region of the world is growing means it's going to get bigger and better. Between 2001 and 2005 in Australia, there were just under 50,000 Indians who were born in their native country living in Australia. In a decade, that number rose by tenfold. However, it's not just their numbers that are noteworthy, but also how well they're doing. In past centuries, Indians were restricted to lowly servitude, but in recent years, Indians in the region have had some of the best jobs in the region. In Australia, Indians are among the highest earning nationalities, working across several fields ranging from healthcare to IT to engineering. In Papua New Guinea, most Indians work in the natural gas sector, while in Samoa, most are either teachers or workers in agencies. Some of the best academics and scientists in the world are Indians living in Oceania. Matthai Varghese has won a few awards for his contribution to mathematics. Chennupati Jagadish is an Indian-Australian physicist who's widely recognised globally for his contribution to nanotechnology. The industrious nature of Indians in Oceania has made them one of the highest earning nationalities in the region. As of 2016, the median income of Indian-born residents in Australia was $785, which is $170 higher than all Australian residents born outside Australia and $97 higher than people born in Australia. And it's not by chance that they have the best jobs. Education-wise, not many foreign national groups outdo Indians. Even the locals don't. They're simply the most educated group of people in Australia. A study done in 2011 showed that 54.6% of Indian migrants in Australia have either a bachelor's degree or higher. To put that in perspective, the Australian national average is 17.2%, which means for every Australian with at least a degree, you'll find 3 Indians with the same qualification. Additionally, in 2024, there are roughly 120,000 Indian nationals enrolled in Australian universities, and that number will not be declining anytime soon. But it's not just with their numbers and professions they've been able to influence Oceania. Certain Indians living in Oceania have been fortunate to rise to prominent positions of influence in society. Chapter 4: The Indian Influence in Oceania. In Australia, Indians also make up a huge presence in politics. From Prue Carr, the Deputy Premier of New South Wales, to Rashina Campbell, a member of the Council of the City of Melbourne. In Fiji, one of their longest-serving members of Parliament, James Madhavan, is of Indian descent. So is Mahendra Pal Chowdhury, the 4th Prime Minister of Fiji and the first of Indian ancestry. In New Zealand, several members of Parliament have Indian origins, such as Parmjeet Parmar and several others. But India's influence in the region doesn't stop at governing. It's no secret that Indians love cricket, and Oceania is one place that comes remotely close to sharing the passion for the sport with them. That's why many of the region's best players are actually those of Indian origin. In the New Zealand cricket team, there were the likes of Dipak Narshipai Patel, Ish Sodhi, Jeet Raval and Ajaz Patel, while the Australian team has had the likes of Tanvir Sangha, Arjun Nair and Gurinder Sandhu. But cricket isn't the only sport Indians in Oceania play very well. Zulfikar Joy Ali was a notable Fiji Indian boxer in his day. Rocky Khan is a notable rugby union player, and Astra Sharma is making her mark in the tennis world. Even in the entertainment department, they're stacked to the roof with talent. Many actresses and filmmakers can trace their origins back to India, including MTV's Anusha Dandekar, former Miss Universe Australia, Maria Thatil, The Matrix star Tharini Mudalia, and many more. But beyond the influences exerted internally by Indians, Oceania also enjoys ties with India as a country. Chapter 5: Economical Trade and Agriculture. So much trade goes on between India and the countries in Oceania. Between India and Papua New Guinea, trade volumes reached as much as $700 million in 2022. India provided mostly rice, while Papua exported palm oil, copper, and rough wood. With New Zealand, India traded over $1.1 billion worth of goods in 2022. The oceanic island states supplied coal and wool, and India provided them with refined petrol and medical supplies, among other things. But by far, India's largest trade partner in the region is Australia. Trade between the two countries amounted to $48 billion in 2022. This led to trade agreements between the two nations to eliminate tariffs on imports, such as raw materials for India's manufacturing industry. This has allowed Indian manufacturers of electronics and energy technologies to grow in scope and production. But trade isn't the only way India relates to Oceania. Australia has partnered with India in the field of agricultural research. The Australian government has funded research in Australian universities on ways that agriculture can be improved in India. India is also concerned with the welfare of the other smaller nations in Oceania. Through the years, they've donated medical equipment and financial aid to Samoa. Also, India and Fiji have a defense pact that's seen the nation's military capability bolstered and an Indian intelligence facility stationed there. And that's that for Indians in Oceania. We know Indians are a beautiful nationality, and it's awesome seeing them extend their culture to the far reaches of the globe and make every place they go better. So, let us know in the comment section what your thoughts are about this video, and don't forget to like and subscribe.